All right, hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Friday, August 27th, 2021. This is your daily tropical update, where this morning we continue to focus on Tropical Storm Ida, a quickly developing tropical storm near Cuba this morning. And the system is expected to actually move over the western tip of Cuba now as a Category 1 hurricane, move out into the Gulf of Mexico tonight, and a second landfall is expected somewhere in eastern or central Louisiana on Sunday night, and a very serious situation this morning as a potentially very powerful hurricane is heading for the northern Gulf Coast once again. And unfortunately, nothing has changed and only really even gotten worse since we last talked. So, the Hurricane Center's morning forecast cone, this 11 a.m. advisory, maximum state winds of Ida up to 65 miles an hour this morning. Hurricane hunters have been in there this morning investigating, and not only do we see the winds increase pretty good from last night, it was a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm yesterday evening. Today, it is a 65-mile-an-hour tropical storm, but we're also seeing the early workings of some inner eye features, which we'll explain in a minute. So, storms rapidly improving, and hurricane warnings have actually been set for the western tip of Cuba because it's expected in the next 6 or so hours while we're recording this that this will be able to get up to 75-mile-an-hour winds. And this is putting a much more organized, and again, like I told you guys yesterday, if you get a hurricane into the Gulf of Mexico this evening, um, that is not good for what is to come and is only going to jack up the potential landfall intensity of Ida later on. New Hurricane Center forecast does have those hurricane watches were set this morning from or they were set last night actually, from the Texas Louisiana border to the Mississippi Alabama border. Tropical storm watch from Mississippi to Alabama's border. What you're probably going to see is some of these will turn into tropical storm warnings. I think Western Louisiana will be turned into a tropical storm warning, but then the rest of this will become hurricane warnings probably tomorrow night, I would imagine. But sooner than later, and these need to be taken full. Every preparation is being made today. It's the bottom line. Every preparation is being made today for this hurricane. Guys, the sky's the limit for the storm. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again today. The sky is the limit. I do not like to hype. I don't like to just go off my rocker. I'm not one of these morons you see on YouTube posting doctored images and oh god, the world's gonna end every time a tropical wave gets going. But guys, this one, the sky is the limit. That's all. That's what I'm gonna leave it at, and we'll show you why. New Hurricane Center official forecast is up to 120 miles per hour, which I think is still a pretty good call. They are pushing it as hard as they can push their forecast packages without just going completely off the rails. I like it. I like the urgency. I like the intensity. 120 may not even capture what the storm is capable of, but I do like the aggressiveness in the forecast. They are basically putting the throttle down as far as they really can because they really have to kind of be careful with how far off they go. They can't just, they've got a lot of people counting on them. And really, when you start talking about 120, 130, 150, that's catastrophic. That is potentially devastating. Okay. That's when you start not getting lost in the details. Okay. So what we seen this morning? Well, recon data is one of the first things we'll look at, and that sea level pressure dropping down to near 990 millibars, which is ahead of what most models anticipated. Even some of our more aggressive ones, such as the HWRF, were a little closer to 997 or so today. I'll show you that in a second too. So one of the things we noticed is not only do we have a pressure drop where they flew that beginning of an eye wall, you have winds corresponding to, near 60 knots, which is, 50, 55, 65 miles an hour, or 55 knots is about 65 miles an hour. So you're pushing that hurricane threshold sooner than later. Your flight level winds also spiked in that northeast eye wall, and you're starting to see warming where the temperature spike went from, about 17, 18 degrees Celsius to about 23 degrees Celsius. That indicates a warming eye, indicates a strengthening tropical storm or hurricane. So not good news on that front. Satellite presentation of the storm a bit more zoomed in this morning, and one of the big things we notice is the low-level center has tucked neatly up under this mid-level center and mid-level complex of thunderstorms. As we mentioned yesterday, we had that kind of displaced low to mid-level center. It was kind of leaning off to the southwest and northeast with height. That has corrected itself as models kind of expected. You can see just the edge of those inflow winds right here. indicating your center is somewhere over here. And again, hurricane hunters were able to find that pretty easy. 996, 997, and it looks like, notice how the eye is almost like it's moving up like this. That's because it was more tucking, it was rolling and tucking up under that mid-level center, and no surprise there. You can see the little hint of a primitive eye wall right here as these winds move in. This is likely wrapping around the center a little bit more, and we can see this on from Twitter. Eric Webb, great follow on Twitter for weather stuff, but he has access to some Cuban radar information, and you'll see in the last frames, you can see this wrap around right about there, indicating the at least partial eye wall starting to form of a core for Ida. She's got about another 6 to so hours before she's really going to be over land that is going to matter. And again, that Cuban Peninsula tip is not going to matter all that much to a storm like this. All right, so that's the big story as far as the structure and stuff goes. Looking at the bigger picture, I want to look at the big picture real quick too, because this is really important. We'll go back to our first satellite image, okay? Just look at how calm everything else is. Look at the United States. This is late August, and there is like almost no clouds anywhere besides the Gulf Coast, and this is only here because this upper low that's retreating back across the Gulf Coast. That's it. I mean, there's nothing going on. See, hurricanes, they like this. This is what hurricanes love. This is custom ordered for big hurricanes. They don't want a bunch of troughs and ridges and stuff getting in their way. They want one nice little happy ridge just kind of pushing it along. Nice easy guidance. This is not a very strong high. It's kind of a weak high pressure cell over the Carolinas. It's just kind of forcing this thing to kind of just it's nudging it along, but there's nothing else going on. And this is what's really concerning. Water vapor imagery shows that upper low pretty well, but it's backed off significantly today. And what you see is the winds are starting to back away. And what you see also, clouds beginning to extend out into parts of the Gulf that weren't yesterday. And you can also begin to see the outflow canopy that we're going to see in the upper level wind field. That's beginning. Great outflow to the south, great outflow to the east, outflow quickly improving to the north. Only thing that's left is outflow to the northwest, and that is coming soon as this low continues to back away and these winds begin to pull on the storm instead of push on the storm. That pull is like taking the pot lid off your boiling pot of water and turning the oven hood vent on. That's what you're about to do with the storm, and that's again why we are so concerned. As I've mentioned already like 5 times in this video, looking ahead into the Gulf of Mexico as this leaves Cuba tonight and gets into the Gulf tomorrow, there's really nothing slowing it down. You have great moisture fields across the Gulf of Mexico. There's not much, if any, dry air, and even if there is a little bit of dry air, there's really nothing to really get the dry air into the storm. Upper level wind field from the GFS. The only thing that could possibly hinder this storm is Hurricane Nora should be cranking by this time in the East Pacific. Some of that outflow may work across Mexico in the upper levels. You can kind of see it in this little like weak trough that's trying to dig in on our storm, but our storm being here, probably going to be way too strong. Big outflow channel aloft, not likely to be any major impact on it. The third factor that's also the most concerning of the three is the oceanic heat content to come. This system is going to go right over Cuba, right over here, and pretty much into central eastern Louisiana. And I just drew a line basically through the warmest, deepest water you could possibly find in the Gulf of Mexico. This is part of the loop current, and it's just an eddy of really deep, warm water. And even if you don't count that ridiculous deep, warm water patch, you're just basically on the warmest, deepest water in the Gulf. I mean, it's just that simple. So this thing is not going to have warm water. It's going to have the deepest, warmest water you can find, and that is really what the big concern is. And the only question is becoming with Ida is really how fast can it deepen? I said the sky's the limit. So how fast is that? Ainsworth showing us this well. Ainsworth, showed the structure well from last night. It had the misplaced structure yesterday. The low level center kind of off in the mid level center a little bit. Well, back a little bit further. Mid level center, low level center. There was that misalignment from last night. This was at like 8, 9 p.m. last night. So we go this morning. Everything's kind of tucked up nice. You can see that little wind, barb on the outside there. But this is even a little bit weaker than what she actually is. So even the Ainsworth, a typically aggressive model, is even a little bit behind. But it does show this well. It shows the continued deepening of the storm up until landfall a little bit later this afternoon across Western Cuba. And then a little bit of weakening, 990 to 995, a little bit of a pressure rise as it comes across, but then it's immediate. That restart is virtually immediate. And if you have a core like she's building, that little bit of land ain't gonna disrupt it that much. And then you see the deepening really begins on Saturday and then through early Sunday, and then the H-wave takes us down all the way to 940 millibars right off the coast of Louisiana. But one thing I wanted to mention is the timing, the slowdown that the H-wave is showing. One of the things we're concerned about is notice how the Hurricane Center is already backed up, 8 p.m. now on Sunday. This was 2 p.m. on Sunday yesterday. The timing is slowing down a little bit. Again, the high pressure guiding this is weakening. So as the storm approaches, this high's influence is waning and waning and waning, why it eventually wants to turn. But this time looks like it's slowing down. This is two things. It greatly increases rainfall, and it also gives the storm more time. Even if I'm telling you, even if you buy the storm another 6 hours, 8 hours, that could be an entire category difference in landfall intensity. They were already pushing the upper echelon of Category 3. Category 4 is next. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I really don't like to sound like this, but there is really, the sky is the limit for the storm as far as what it can do in the next couple of days before landfall. So, as you see, there's not a lot slowing this down. Every preparation needs to be made right now, today, right now, along the Louisiana coast. Evacuations need to start. New Orleans is in a lot of danger. We'll go ahead and show you some impacts because track, I don't think, is going to change. These track models have been very clustered for a while now. The steering pattern is simple. Really, what you're going to see is somewhere between Lafayette and Grand Isle, Louisiana. Probably Morgan City is going to be the ground zero for this storm because this is basically how the cone center looks. So it's going to be somewhere in here, I think, for the actual landfall point. But again, hurricane conditions very likely for this larger region, not just for where it makes landfall, especially on the east side. And that's going to put cities like Gulfport and New Orleans in some serious danger. Let's go ahead and look at the storm surge graphics. 7 to 11 feet for areas around Morgan City into the east of Morgan City, especially in the cove here that makes up Louisiana and Mississippi, sort of meeting New Orleans right here. Very big threat. And this is something I want to point out with the storm surge. If this storm does go up to strong category 4, let's just say strong category 4 is coming in right here. This would be the storm of record in this small part of Louisiana. I can show you NOAA's historical hurricane tracks. The only thing that's really that close is Betsy in 1965, which was a category 4, and she hit a little bit further over towards Grand Isle. And then you have Andrew and a storm in 1856 that hit further over towards Vermilion Bay and Lafayette. Okay. If a storm were to come up like this, Betsy was a category 4, Andrew was a weakening hurricane. It was a category 4 or 5 off the coast. It came down to a category 3 at landfall, and the 1856 one nobody remembers, so we're not going to worry about it. Both these storms hit off to the east, but they were, not the strongest storms ever. Betsy probably the storm of record. Okay, in this region. I want to show you that both Katrina and Camille did hit to the east of New Orleans. Okay. The flooding was Lake Pontchartrain being pushed out to the south. If a strong category 4 is coming up through here, it's been a long time since that happened. And this water flow in this region is going to be pretty prolific. Now, I don't know a lot about Hurricane Betsy from 65, so I can't tell you if Ida may or may not be comparable to that storm. But I can tell you that this is going to be a pretty big storm, and the fetch of water this is going to push is going to be tremendous. And this is going to be a very dangerous place to be on Sunday when the storm comes ashore. So please respect the storm surge graphics, storm surge forecast, and understand that these totals may not even be high enough. If the storm is actually going to overachieve past the already lofty expectations, this could be a big problem. We'll go and go to rainfall real quick. At least a foot of rain coming for this region. And again, that stalling forecast is concerning. Notice the WPC already has some spots getting into a foot and a half. I mean, easy. I mean, this is going to be a ton of rain. It's going to start early. It's going to start by Sunday morning. And, it's going to last through Monday. As again, it takes a while. 8 a.m. Monday, the storm is still sitting ashore. I mean, 12 hours is kind of like this little difference in 12 hours. This is like 40 miles. I mean, it's going to be crawling for a little while before it begins to turn away. So you got about probably almost 2 full days of heavy rainfall coming with this storm. So, winds aside, this is going to be very bad. At least a foot of rain, a foot to foot and a half for a lot of folks. And that heavy rainfall carries well into Alabama, Mississippi, and even into Tennessee, where, 4 to 8 inches of rain and a wide swath very possible. And anytime the tropical storm, you always have to add more than that. So locally, a foot of rain all the way up into Tennessee, very possible. The wind gust forecasts aren't great yet. The models, for whatever reason, aren't quite initializing this well, so we're going to kind of hold off on looking at those. Hopefully, they'll get in better detail tonight. But So we'll see about that. But that's kind of your early look at some of the impacts to come. Tornadoes are also going to be a big thing. We'll dig into those more tonight. And I want to leave you with Brian McNulty on Twitter. Just letting you know, we've had 4 Category 5 hurricane hits in the continental United States. All 4 were tropical storms 3 days before landfall. Please do not underestimate what this storm can do. Just don't. This is not the one to do it with. So, hoping we're wrong. Hoping we get a couple last minute breaks and a couple things break our way. But and not only have we had 4 Category 5s, 2 of them have basically passed the western tip of Cuba and went into the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll see how it plays out. We're hoping for a miracle, but just know this is a very serious threat to the Gulf Coast. All preparations need to be underway. We'll talk again this evening. We'll see how it looks coming across Cuba, and we'll have plenty of updates between now and landfall. So until then, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.